Welcome to another exciting show with my good friends, Doctors JJ and Desiree Hertog, and some old friends, Tanya Maidenford, Frank Jacobs, and some experts in many, many fields, Dieter Burrows and Vera Brandis. They're here to talk about some exciting new discoveries along with the Hertogs, but I met them years ago with my good friend Tanya in New York. And what was that about, Tanya?
Well, we did this fantastic movie called Solar Revolution. It was based on Dieter's work about how solar activity is directly connected to what's happening here on Earth, the electromagnetic field, rises and falls of civilization. Vera was one of our producers, and it was all based on Dieter's work. There was a inception of this film prior to then called Revolution 2012. Actually, Dieter had done a book. He's also a best-selling author in the German region. And so we came out to New York City, thanks to you, Alan. And of course, Frank Jacob was co-directing this film and producing that with myself. And we were so happy to be able to bring that film to America and share it with the US audience. And of course, for you, Alan, bringing us into New York. Vera joined me as well, and the Hertogs were there. In fact, JJ and Desiree were also featured in Solar Revolution. But Alan, you gave us Best Consciousness Film of the Year, so
I did give you that award. But before we get into the conversation with Dina and Vera, I just want you to you and Frank to do a little sneak preview expose of your latest film, because I think people will be really excited about that, the one that's coming out.
Well, we've been quietly sequestered away out of sight for the last couple of years during all the mayhem that's happened on the planet. And we didn't announce it really until we were at a very late stage in the post-production. But Tanya and I have been working together. We're on the post-production on the conversion of a book that's out there known as the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac, and adapting it to the screen in what is now a new kind of, I guess you'd say, a new form of documentary, as some people that have seen the early screenings are calling it. So yeah, we're sort of taking a jaunt down the wild side, down the wild road of ET species. Do they exist? Who are they? Where are they from? What do they look like? And trying to make it as entertaining as possible.
Great.
And we're going to be the first film, I think, we actually showcase real images, real photographs of some extraterrestrials. So that's going to be quite exciting. And we just got accepted to do a sneak preview at Contact in the Desert this June. Very exciting. I know you're going to be there, Alan. We have JJ and Desiree are going to be on the filmmaker panel, and we'll have some really great others with us.
JJ and Desiree, why don't you introduce the topic of sound technologies?
Yes. Well, first of all, we are social scientists, musicologists. I have had the opportunity of my music being performed by the Berlin Philharmonic Symphony, and I have had the opportunity to be on the music faculty with Ravi Shankar many years ago when Walt Disney put together the best music faculty in the world. We had Leonard Bernstein, Andre Previn, we had the best musicologists in the world. And so Desiree and I worked together to produce this premiere book called Sound. And that book has contributions by very special artists, including Vera Brandis. This book deals with the importance of sound and how sound is changing our consciousness and preparing us for what we believe to be a fantastic change of realizing we are holistic beings.
Right. So what's really important is that sound is more than just listening to music. It actually is transformational. And this is something Vera had worked on extensively with getting people out of depression through music and making really changes. And Dieter as well understands the concept of the fact that sound is power, and it's able to literally maybe even heal the planet if we put the right vibrations together.
And Dieter, of course, is a physicist. He worked with Bernheim, in my opinion, the scientist equal to Einstein, and showing that there is a much greater cosmology that deals with vibrations from the smallest particles to the largest particles, that we are part of the orchestration of life in between. And so let us turn the conversation over to Dieter and Vera because they have contributed so much.
Yeah, I want to know
both-
Vera's contribution to the sound book and talk about what their whole vision of sound technology can bring into the future. So,
Is that Vera, for her part, was involved in music much before I even met Dieter or Vera even met Dieter. She was working in the area of this thing called the Mozart effect, which describes how music has these properties, these qualities which change your consciousness, which can affect your not only your mood, but in Vera's case, she was also pioneering technology which would help to, if I'm not mistaken, remove or linder the need for pain medication, because music has the ability to stimulate endorphins or things in the body that help to overcome the need for massive amounts of pain medication, etc. Is this not right? Correct, Vera?
Yeah. I have been a record producer for many, many years and an independent record label owner, very closely associated with Blue Note Records on the American end of things for many years, a concert and festival promoter. Actually, this year, film will be premiered that is made about an event I was responsible for 50 years ago with Keith Jarrett playing at the Cologne Opera. The film is called The Girl from Köln. So it's a film about Vera Brandes and the story of the Köln concert, a big major production feature film with many very famous German actors. So that is a tiny part of my life in music because I was a serial entrepreneur in the music industry before. I dropped everything and went back to school. That's the way I met Dieter, because in my third academic training, I became a Master of Science in Information and Energy Medicine, and Dieter was my professor. So
that's great. But you know, I think one thing you should tell people that's really interesting, Vera, that people don't really know about is what even got you into the idea of music and healing, because that is kind of like, that's kind of what got you into the, like you were working on music production, concerts, the standard musical program, right? And suddenly, I think, didn't you have some kind of an event in your life which exposed you to, was it Tibetan monks singing or chanting, and that actually created a physiological effect, and you had your aha moment, and that steered you in this new direction. Maybe you should tell people about that, because that's really interesting.
I had a major car accident in which I had several fractures in my spine, and I was told that, you know, first of all, it was a big luck I was still alive and I wasn't paralyzed. And I was in the hospital sharing the room with a Buddhist who had also had a major operation. And she had her friends come twice a day, most of the time, chanting a healing mantra. And my prognosis was flat on your back for 12 weeks. And I was out of the hospital in 2 weeks. And I also had some alternative methods done on me, Jinjitsu. So when I came out of the hospital so unexpectedly early with my fractures being healed in such a rapid time that all the medical personnel was just completely amazed, they were asking me, you know, what is it? And I said, well, it's either the chanting or the Jinjitsu or the combination. I'm going to go into research, and when I find out, I'll let you know. That was the story.
Great. Okay. And then, so I guess, you know, we can move on to Dieter's aspect, because it was because of your interest in this music. Und
Also, ich war Physiker und
that he was basically involved in biophysics, which is more the study, the physics of nature and the physics of, you know, these other properties, not just the physics, but more these natural sciences. And that was sort of his area, and that's what he was teaching. He studied it, And that's how he actually ended up connecting with Vera, because they had a common friend. That's actually one of the first things, incidentally, that I got to meet Vera doing, is I was making films and she got me involved in, I think, a music conference where I believe we're talking about the same guy. It was a guy called Franz Hellberg, right, Vera?
Franz Hellberg, who is the grandfather of chronobiology, and he was my mentor, and Dieter was very close to him too, yeah. When I got into research, shortly after this accident, a whole series of events brought me to Salzburg. And within a very short amount of time, I had my first research project at the University Mozarteum, and then later at the Paracelsus Medical University. And we were looking for the comprehensive model of why music has such a major impact on matter in all kinds of shapes and forms. And chronobiology is one of the keys to this knowledge, because anything that we consider matter is actually a combination of rhythms, and the chronobiology is describing the combination of rhythms in the human body. And what applies to the human body not only applies to the human body, it applies to everything, because sound is the form-giving power in the universe. And when we looked at the effects of music on the human body, why is it so big, and how is it actually working? It's a synchronization effect between music and the human body and the human brain waves also, but it's also the other way around. It is that the conglomerate of rhythms that each one of us is, with its own individual signature, has a correspondence in the area of music. So we could consider every human being, with all aspects of its being, to be a comprehensive musical composition. So music really is kind of the meta language of matter, of living matter, and actually everything is living matter. There is not such a thing as not living matter. So, and the chronobiology is the science in which you can use to see how the levels are corresponding with each other and reflecting each other, and why it can be that sound is the form-giving power.
Ja, dieser Fachbereich Chronobiologie ist eigentlich ein Bereich, der nur von zwei.
So Dieter was telling us that his particular interest with respect to this gentleman called Franz Hellberg, who's kind of like the grandfather of something called chronobiology, was that, it's really what Dieter was calling it is kind of like the king's discipline of medicine, because it studies so many different elements of a person's biology, and chronobiology has a lot to do with systems. And two of the areas, two of the main groups that were studying this were, on the one hand, NASA, and on the other hand, the Soviet cosmonaut program. They were the two groups that were probably the most invested, because they are the people that first noticed the effects of chronobiology on astronauts that are outside of the envelope of the Earth's magnetosphere. And so this whole thing evolved, and that was kind of like Dieter's real pet interest. And he had the chance of working with guys like Yuri Gagarin. I think, JJ, you know that name as well.
Right.
And that was kind of what led into that direction. So maybe you want to jump in here a little bit, JJ. Well,
we had the opportunity to work with Russian scientists in biophysics at Novosibirsk in Russia. Professor Vail Kosnyshev, who was the top cosmologist, began his work by studying the musical and the vibratory field on the human system. We had the opportunity also to work with, from the NASA side, American scientists like Susan Alexander, who was involved with the music of DNA, because they wanted to test the resilience of the American astronauts, like the Russians, the Soviet cosmonauts in outer space. And they felt that music and harmonics was the key to long endurance.
So, Ich möchte einfach über das Medium Sound
What Dieter's talking about here is a very little known aspect of what people know about with respect to sound, is that it basically it's like the glue that binds together the mental and I guess by extension the spiritual realms of consciousness with the physical world. It actually glues those or binds those together. Okay, so this is very fascinating. He's saying that essentially the work of Albert Popp, for example, discovered that every single cell, even from the DNA to the strands of the DNA to the aspects of the tiniest microcosm of the system, is comprised of both a sound wave and an electrical wave, and which are at a certain specific perpendicular angle to each other. But basically, it's these two combinations that have to be viewed for us to really fully understand what a cell is.
Yeah, I agree. In fact, Fritz Albert Popp is mentioned in an article I wrote for the Journal of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, which is a British publication in 2004, showing exactly what was just discussed, that there is a harmonic built within our cell structure. In fact, our body is a biotransducer, an energy vehicle for a whole variety of sounds. And each of the energy parts of our body, called traditionally by the people of India and the Far East, the chakras, in the Western Christian tradition, the seals, represent energy pathways that can be, shall we say, synthesized by musical harmonics. This is a key to a new type of not only physics, biophysics, but a type of musical therapy that's so important.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we brought out in our book, because every cell, the DNA, everything is vibration. Now, it's not always things that you hear, and I think that's very important to realize, but it's frequencies, it's harmonics, and it's hertz in many cases, which is how they measure that. In fact, man can only hear between 20 hertz and 20,000 hertz. So we're in a very limited range. But even the brain is constantly putting out the whole alpha frequencies, the theta frequencies. That's what people study sometimes when they're looking at, dream states and meditation. So we are constantly emanating these vibrations of sound, and that is who we are. And each one, as Vera had said, is a musical composition, a musical instrument of their own vibrational.
It's interesting also, if I can carry on, that we resonate in that frequency of 7.8 to 8 hertz in terms of alpha waves. And we found that working with the pyramids throughout the world, at the very top, measured also by Russian scientists, the frequency of the Great Pyramid at the top is 8 hertz. And
which
so
is
the ancients,
close to the Schumann resonance, which happens to be where the ionosphere and the earth come together, and electricity, or we'll say lightning strikes, happen. So the earth itself also is the sphere of sound vibrations. And in actuality, it's a harmonic too that helps us, I believe, become more calm, more balanced, more harmonious.
So what you're saying, Desiree, is that even if we can't perceive those frequencies that are below the 20 hertz, our body still emanates them, and we're still actually picking up on them, but it's just on a non-oral way. I mean, Dieter and I just did a whole show on that, actually, because there's been some very interesting things happening with respect to the Schumann frequency measuring devices around the planet. We just did just the day before yesterday, did a whole program on how the theta and alpha areas are suddenly showing, which never have showed before, which as you know are way below our auditory perceptible range, but these seem to be connecting us to these other elements.
Ich habe, glaube ich, das Wichtigste möchte ich jetzt ganz kurz noch zum Ausdruck bringen, damit wir das
Desiree, what Dieter's talking about here is what he thinks is like kind of the prime and most important thing for people to understand is that, and you were mentioning the key word here was biotransducer, and because a transducer is a carrier, and when you have in the world around us, we have information via picture, via sound, via obviously with computers and internet and data transmission. These are all sources of energy that are operating in a certain frequency range that are traveling on carriers. But what Dieter was saying was that the carrier that the gravitational and sound waves are actually the carrier of emotions of what carrier waves are carrying with respect to, just the pictures and sounds and whatnot.
Right. So if we can add to that, actually, of course, people tune their instruments in a orchestra to 440, but now it's been seen, and our friend Alan Hallworth has worked with this, that if you tune it to 432, you're going more into the vibration of A, or connected with the vibration of nature. But also other musicians are starting to realize that every sound, and I consider it a combination of sound, but we'll start with the basics, like 528 hertz is a certain frequency, and it seems to relate to the love and to the heart vibration. And we've gone into pyramid temples around the world, especially in Egypt and also in Mexico, and we've done pink noise and white noise sweeps. And we find that certain resonant patterns really put your mind into other states of consciousness. And having experiences, even in the Great Pyramid, where those vibrations from doing certain singing and mantras, literally the walls drop away or light can be seen. You can literally transform reality and nature by certain sound frequencies. And that's really Dieter's really heartful understanding of what he wants to do to help the planet, to come out with a certain harmonic vibration that we can use for peace, for harmony, and for greater understanding.
This is the new physics of consciousness, that there is a vibratory system within our body, particularly activated by the right hemisphere of the brain, that when we activate the right hemisphere, it seems that there's a higher multidimensional side of life that comes alive. We began to see spatial arrangements. We began to see color and sound arrangements. We began to feel the openness of the universe. And I would suggest that those who are interested go to our website, because we have many films and music available on the therapy of this new type of music, which is what I will call mantric music of the cosmos.
But I know Vera does as well.
Especially Vera is the first pharmacologist of music. Her work is fantastic.
Well, I've done major clinical trials on the effect of special compositions on people that have been suffering from chronic depression, and we were able to prove that it's more effective than any other form of pharmacological or psychological therapy, which I'm not discouraging people to use when it works for them, but for many people it does not. And therefore, we were very, very happy that with this very long development, we worked for 20 years until we really found the formula. We were able to get people out of the state of chronic depression in a very short period of time, with also side effects like increasing their heart rate variability by a factor that a healthy human would lose in 10 years of life. So it's a heart rejuvenation at the same time. But Dieter has been very much focusing on the relationship of the 8 Hertz Schumann resonance frequency and what it does in the upper ranges and harmonics to the consciousness. And he made certain discoveries which he put into a very recent release of a CD, which has been enjoying a sensational success since it was released just a few months ago. And every day we are getting emails from people that are reporting about the effects that listening to this composition that he has released enables them to get into a state of connecting to their multidimensional aspects in a very, very fast way. It's like they say it's can't be compared to any other thing they've experienced, including a range of drugs that people are using to get into these states of consciousness. So I would like to show this. quickly. It's called Octavia, and it is available in English. So, I mean, it's of course an instrumental piece of music, but
Yeah.
it has a very extensive booklet, and that is coming along with the CD, which is available in English. We translated it so that it's accessible for people outside of the German-speaking area.
And I know Frank and Tanya have listened to it, and you've had some experiences. Tanya, can you share those experiences a little bit, or Frank?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I went into the studio, I put headphones on, proper like professional headphones on. It was dark. There was the play window on the screen. I wasn't told anything other than I get to listen to this amazing piece of, well, I don't know if you would even call it music. It really is a sound technology. Vera is the voice of the English, and I recognize that voice, but then it goes into other tones and other sounds, and it takes you on a journey. But what I found very interesting is, I don't remember if it was like 6 minutes in or 7 minutes in, but I had my eyes closed, the room was dark, the player window was there, and all of a sudden I saw a bright flash of white light, just immediately bright white light. It's like somebody turned the lights on. And the producer and me went, oh, they must have had a little glitch in their player window, and maybe there was a white frame in the visualizer. I'll have to go back and look at that, but I wanted to stay into the experience. And so I got all done, and I spoke with Frank, who had actually listened to Octavia before I did, and didn't tell me anything because I wanted to have really a neutral perspective. And I said, wow, that was just amazing. And I went into these other states, but there was this one time I saw this bright flash of light, and I've scrubbed now all through this visualizer, and I can't find the frame. Can you help me find the frame? How do we get to the... And he's like, really? He's like, this thing happened to me. He said, there isn't any visualizer. There was no player window. And I was like, what? And it was like somebody came in and turned all the lights on. And I had so the light was actually happening in my mind's eye. It was bright. It's almost like light was actually coming from the outside in. And so there's definitely something that happens with the brain and the brain mapping and our frequency during the Octavia experience, for sure. Frank, your experience was very similar, right? Do you remember the minute mark?
You know, I think it was around, you're right, somewhere between 7 and 10 minutes in, I started to have this very strange feeling like I had just, I'd swallowed something.
Yeah, actually, I discovered certain secrets in terms of how you can use sound to really travel into the cosmos. And it's always a combination. It's a combination of a frequency,
Yeah.
a stand wave, and a certain rhythm.
Yeah.
So it's very good that it's a combination, because otherwise lots of things could happen that we do not want to see happening. But if you know how to combine a rhythm with a certain frequency, you can really start traveling.
What part of the brain would that activate if that was, working with neurology and, spiritual awakening?
It's about the pineal gland,
Pineal
which
gland and hippocampus.
which this guy knows a hell of a lot about. He just wrote a book about it, and the hippocampus.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear about the pineal gland and sound and, awakening and cosmic activations. Can you translate that, Frank? And
Sure. Well, Dieter had just written a book, which was called Pineal Gland Classified. And it's interesting because, you were saying you were expressing an interest, Alan, and it is really a key subject which plays into what's going on right now. Dieter's book, when we spent Christmas together a year, not this past Christmas, but the year before, he was suggesting that I should do a follow-up webinar to my first webinar. They started doing studies in the 30s and 40s, way back, almost 100 years ago, where they discovered that the pineal gland has the ability to connect us through hyperspace. and so basically it's the connection between the physical world and the world which you might call the field out of which we manifest into the physical from. And Dieter's whole book talks about the mechanism behind the ability of the pineal gland to tap into this other dimension, literally, and then bring this dimension closer via another part of the brain, which is called the hippocampus, which is responsible for generating pictures and also storing of memories and associative memory in the brain. So those two working together are kind of what allow us to map out not only the connection between what we experience in the physical world, where then our daily experiences, memories, emotions, and feelings are converted by the hippocampus and stored within the cerebral cortex. But this then is then transmitted to the pineal gland, which carries it back to our source code, and then there's this communication. So my webinar, Inner Looking Glass, is about that, and Dieter did a webinar as well, which goes much more into the exercises and things that you can do to activate the connection between your pineal gland, and in order with a purpose. And the goal, of course, is to making you much more aware of your source code, for lack of a better word.
But Vera's saying that there's a certain sound frequency that will activate the pineal.
Yes.
And
Yes, Octavia,
what does that
which she
sound,
held
Vera?
up. Well, this is what she's showing in that when she held up that Octavia thing. This is the sound technology, which also Tanya was describing. It's actually a way for us to balance and to create. I think the claim that impressed me the most with when Dieter brought this technology forward was he said it was creating a standing wave in the middle of your brain. And a standing wave, as we know, the standing wave is something that is essentially tying into the wave structure of matter. Standing waves are the intersection point between hyperspace and physical matter.
Octavia is not like a meditation. This is something completely different. It's really a technology, and it puts you in another state. It's really difficult to explain. There are aspects of it where you actually hear ocean waves, but it's not something that you listen to listen to pleasant music. It is absolutely a technology, and it's definitely doing something to your frequency, your vibration, the mapping, I think, of the brain waves, and it puts you in these altered states that allows you then to connect in a different way. I think we've all been subjected to so much interference here on Earth and everything around us. And I think that Octavia has managed to create like this magic in a bottle where you can listen to it and it's really putting you right there. And I think everyone's having different experiences. I think it's
hear that. Can we all hear it?
You have to have a really good headset. I sent
yeah.
you a list of headsets that,
Okay.
because you need to have a headset that goes all the way down to 8 hertz, even though it's, not in the range of what humans can really perceive, but the effect is there no matter what.
Wow.
And that's very, very important. So, what the feedback we're getting confirms is that when therapists are prescribing that to people that have all kinds of mental, emotional disorders, it seems to reconnect the mind to the soul. And
wow. Amazing.
That I think is really because, when we look at what has happened to the planet in the past few years, really what is going on is the general attempt to disconnect our physical avatar that is running around on the surface of this planet to our cosmic aspects and our multidimensional existence. We have to look at things from the other way around. We all know we are more than our bodies, and we are more than our minds and our intellect. We are beings that have chosen the existence on this planet, for everybody has its own reason to incarnate on this planet and to go for this experience. But when we lose that inherent knowledge, then we become objects, and that's not what we should allow to happen. So we should use anything we can to maintain that connection. And music is the most powerful thing.
I would say this is the reason the ancients show this in all of the great pyramids that we have measured with musicologists, professional musicologists. There was an 8 hertz resonance at the top of the pyramids. We did this in Egypt, we did this in Mexico, we did this historically even in China with the great pyramids that were there. So the historic cultures have shown us that the pyramid is a symbol of the higher mind, the connection of the left and the right hemisphere with the pineal gland, and the symbols of ancient Christian and Buddhist culture show these remarkable auras, sometimes even in triangular shapes, showing that we have a third brain, which is the synthesis of the 2 hemispheres. I believe the standing wave studies that we have also on film will be remarkable for Dieter's future work and our work together with our new book on sound, showing graphically the fact that we are musical instruments. We are incarnate musical biotransducers in the living universe. It keeps us together to sound that continues, I should say, mind over matter through higher sound resonance, and provides a sense of futurism, of ongoing understanding of the cosmic creation through higher biomusic that we are living in our bodies and our hearts and our minds.
And we feel like we are existing in one reality here, although in terms of health and healing, like studies like NovoCure have actually come together and used multiple frequencies to actually stop the duplication of cancer cells, for example, in glioblastoma. But we also see ourselves in this reality, but as we raise up into the next frequency, the next octave, we're raising our vibrations into perhaps the 5th dimension and even higher. We think that superstring theory, many people say, is not interesting, but I feel it is interesting. Maybe not all the science has come out yet, but that we're really vibratory strings in this reality. And as we raise our consciousness vibration, we go into those higher realities, even where the physical body starts becoming more of energy and light.
Beautiful said.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Darf ich, Frank?
Ja, bitte.
Der ganze der Anfang war bei mir in den 80er Jahren an der Freien Universität in Berlin.
Yeah, what he was just describing was that his early days when he was studying at the Free University in Berlin, Dieter was tapping into and doing the foundational research, which led him to the discovery and his team that they actually could isolate the resonant frequency of the pineal gland as 8 hertz. So, and at the time that they made this discovery, this wasn't something which was publicly very widely known, because they knew very well that there was this connection. Because if you realize that the resonant frequency of the pineal gland matches that of the Earth's Schumann frequencies, then whenever you have 2 objects that are in connection or in resonance with each other, there is an exchange of information. So what does that mean? And so as a result of that, Dieter began developing technologies which took advantage of not only the knowledge of the 8 hertz, but was able to figure out how to acoustically convey this information and electromagnetically convey. So both of these technologies work, but he felt that the acoustic, the sound wave of influence of 8 hertz on the pineal gland had the most profound effect of them all.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why the Octavia is, because it's the 8 frequency.
Eightfold nature.
Eightfold.
Yes, that's it. Exactly. It helps, like what Vera was saying, was it's helping us to, it's a technology which is helping us to unlock these other abilities that we have, because it connects us to our multidimensional existence. Because people are so caught up and fixated on this 3D world, they forget that we actually have subtle bodies that extend out into the space that we don't see, that's invisible around us. They're calling it now the wide body area network, as there's a certain branch of science which understands that exists. In fact, there's even petitions to stop them manipulating that, because it's really kind of a diabolical subject, because we're living in this time now where there's this push for transhumanism, and yet, you know, what Vera is saying, what Dieter is saying, is that there's technology, and you too as well, is that there's technologies which will help us to tap into and enhance our physical bodies and our multidimensional existence, and be able to tap into abilities which would bypass the need for us to, you know, to end up in this transhumanist artificial world that's, you know, steered and controlled by artificial intelligence.
Well, what
I
I'm
just
getting
wanted
from this
to-
conversation, though, is also the fact that we think of sound as pretty much this dimension, but there's probably dimensional doorways that sound opens. Maybe that's what the Mayans and the Egyptians knew, but sound is of other frequencies, other dimensional realities, other even ET extraterrestrial realms. They all have their own sound frequencies that is not of this vibrational universe, but have be doorways into other universes as well. Is that too far out, Vera?
No, not at all. It's a ticket.
Well, talk about that. Talk about how you see that happening, or creating these doorways into as portals to physically move from one vibration to another. I mean, how would that happen?
Well, I can't talk about leaving the realm of our planet, but I can tell you that our heart, the beat of our heart, has a subtle energy wave that travels 40,000 miles. So through our complex chronobiology, we are connected with each other. And the chronobiology of mothers and their children is the closest. I mean, we come out of her, you know, of our mother's chronobiology. And we have, like, you know, this is how telepathy works. This is why mothers know if something is wrong with their children, even when they are on the other end of the planet, because these chronobiologies are on the subtle level of frequency correspondence. You know, we are connected, and it can travel the entire planet's distance, which I personally haven't experienced. I had it with my mother when she had an accident. I was in America on the West Coast, and she was in the center of Europe, and I knew the minute something was wrong with her. And it works the other way around. She always knew when something was wrong with me. And parents, mothers are reporting on this, you know.
Wait, but so you
know
just
that for a long time. Yeah.
you just said there's a science about technology that's a brand new field that I haven't heard people talk about before. The science of telepathic connections, or the field. I mean, is that new? That's new for me. I
Well,
mean,
certain sounds in combination with certain rhythms are really acting like carrier frequencies. And they are carrier frequencies between humans that have this long range distance capacity of the whole planet's diameter. But I'm sure one day we will find out that it goes beyond the realm of our planet Earth, because there is no end of an acoustic frequency that can travel anywhere. So
Right.
could they somehow be non-local? Could these frequencies?
Well, that's Alan. I know we talk about, and you talk about the consciousness field, but the consciousness field, even the global consciousness field versus the cosmic consciousness field, is vast. So how do you tune in to a particular person that's on the other side of the planet? I mean, it is in terms of numbers, in terms of mathematics, in terms of vibration. And it's interesting with even remote viewing, they can give you a number and you don't even know what that number represents, but it represents something that someone asked you to remote view, and you can pick up on that. I think it's the same thing. There's vibratory frequencies, there's mathematics that is part of this global field. And when we harmonize with that, we harmonize with those those who have those number of vibrations, those frequency vibrations.
Right.
Well, when we talk about opening a doorway with sound, I mean, JJ is the epitome example of this. I mean, this was a doorway that was opened to
what I
another
was gonna
reality,
say then.
another realm.
The opening of the doorway was through sound vibrations mantras that created the morphogenic field. And this we discussed in the Keys of Enoch. We've discussed this in many of our other books, The Over Self-Awakening. This is our collaboration with Dieter and Vera, because this is the new physics. The new physics all connects with the standing wave of vibration within our mind. And when we do this, we take this quantum leap. We don't have to go another 30 or 300 years of two-dimensional, three-dimensional work. We're already in the fifth dimension. And this is the exciting part of our collaboration. And we thank you for all of your contributions, especially what Frank and Tanya are doing with the film, because people need to see and participate in the next dimension in order to understand the future of humanity. We are being prepared to sonically or vibratorily speaking, take another jump. And this will be the great breakthrough with the cosmic intelligence we call the extraterrestrials, who work also with sounds, as we know through 3 of the astronauts who were in space, who heard sounds that shouldn't be there. So there's the celestial music, the Gustav Holst, the great German composer, was aware of, the music of the spheres. The Greeks knew this. The Americans and Europeans momentarily forgot about this, but now it's coming back through this great research. And that door has to be a frequency, a mantra that we begin to express daily, actively, with focus and purpose.
And just to also say about the Mozart effect, we mentioned at the very beginning, actually the governor of Georgia for a while he was governor was giving every newborn child coming out of the hospital Mozart music. I mean, this came from the hospital because they felt that listening to that music actually activated the neurons in the brain to make that network effect, to bring you more ideas and more awakening. So I thank you all for being able to join us in this understanding of how important music is in our lives and in helping the planet. We start with the idea of plants even singing, and now we know plants are also communicating with each other. That a study just came out with that. And even cows themselves, when they moo, are not just mooing for nothing. You can tell if they're hurting, if they need help, if they're in love. You can tell that we're all communicating with sound vibrations.
I just have one more question about sound as far as technology. Is there anti-gravity capabilities with sound technologies like maybe the Egyptians used?
I remember we have Dr. Oteka was part of a movie called The Mystery of the Sphinx. And the whole idea was that sound frequency vibrations can raise blocks.
Blocks of stone.
And I believe, of course, even though UFOs for the most part are silent, I think when they are starting to energize, they're using frequencies that's altering the magnetic electric field.
What are those practical frequencies? Maybe Dieter has a key to how we can actually do it.
Ja, ich meine, die Forschungsergebnisse, die, ich weiß gar nicht, ob das Herr Hacker
Dieter was
war.
describing how he was discussing a certain gentleman that was in Tibet in the 1920s that had drawings and brought back drawings that was showing us how the Tibetans, using certain musical instruments, had the ability to levitate massive, heavy objects, stones and whatnot. And the technology that seems to be behind this is that it's a combination always between pressure on the one hand and suction on the other hand. You couldn't do it in a vacuum, so you need to be within a gravitational field to achieve this. But essentially what is going on here is that it doesn't matter how heavy these objects are, when you bring them into some kind of a cross resonance with each other, there's a standing wave that's formed, and standing waves are kind of one of the key words here toward bringing these objects into movement or bringing them outside of the field of gravity.
Yes, in fact, there was a great Latvian engineer, Edward Leitskallen, who came to Florida and was able to use his adoption of standing waves. And he actually created a small center of huge blocks that no one understands how he was able to do this. with
Yeah.
standing waves and gravitational wave modulations.
Right, the area is called Coral Castle, and he was able to raise these huge, heavy blocks. And he actually had wires of copper wire all around, and he used special shoes. So no doubt he was using a certain frequency to raise these blocks, because no single person and no one was there with him. People would deliver the blocks to their front door. The next day, they would be up and standing. And he even has the very front door, which spirals and turns around very quickly. Actually, that broke, because this has been many, many, many years ago, and now they can't even get it to work again. That's how fantastic his energy technology was.
And again, this is the fantastic aspect of why we need a new mind, a new perspective, which you, Dieter, and you, Frank, represent. This is a fantastic breakthrough. Young people throughout the world need to know we're going into a new direction with new science, but this comes to the inner harmonic of our heart, mind, and spirit, to be free, to be open-minded, and also to be positive in the way we use this fantastic standing wave potential.
Well, you know, we could talk about sound for a long, long time, but anything you want to say, final words, Dieter and Vera, about your work and the future of sound?
Ich denke, wir reden, das Wichtige dabei ist nicht so sehr, den Schwerpunkt zu legen, dass man damit.
So what he's saying is essentially it's not so much, Alan, about, you know, using sound to lift stones and objects. We're talking here more about the application of sound as a carrier for tapping into our soul consciousness, because we're talking about an era that we're moving into now, where we're brought more soul here to the earth, you know, simultaneously, in contrast to everything else going in the opposite direction. So this is one of the things that Dieter's trying to achieve in his work together with JJ and Desiree and with Vera. So, and, you know, we're trying to, of course, trying to translate it in some form or other in terms of media. You know, I think, you know, Tanya's also had some interesting experiences, personal experiences, being able to affect things physically through vibration, and she knows of people that that have also pioneered sound to levitate things in the United States, right, Tanya? You want to share a little bit about that?
But it is true. This technology is there, and those advancements are there. And yeah, we could talk all night about the experiences.
Yeah.
Because I've been so deeply involved into trying to have applications studied by rigorous medical trials, so that it can be of advantage for patients around the world. And there will be a big conference happening in Berlin, actually, at the end of September, which I'm co-organizing. It's the World Congress of Music Medicine, which is hosted by the Charité, the most famous German hospital. And so I hope by the end of this year, we will see more music being used in at least German hospitals, and hopefully then others will pick up on that too.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, final words from you, JJ and Desiree. Yes.
Well, we agree with Dieter in the sense that it's one thing to lift rocks, it's another thing to lift your soul and your consciousness. And we've gone to ancient temples around the world and used certain sacred expressions to reactivate that energy, because we believe they themselves are also corridors or portals of ascension. And also in the book itself, and of course the subtitle of it is Profound Experiences with Chanting, Toning, Music, and Healing Frequencies. But we also close with the traditional mantras for the 7 chakras.
In Sanskrit, in Greek, in Hebrew, all of the ancient languages that are very important. And to, again, affirm what Dieter just said, we are going into a whole new direction of human civilization. We can go backwards or forwards. If we go forwards, we will achieve what I believe, and the Keys of Enoch talk about this, Lichtmensch, light humanity. The light person will come out of the 3-dimensional form and be vibratorily prepared to participate with the cosmic family in the 5th dimension. We are at a major point of crossing into a whole new reality, which requires, as you know, Alan, the right hemisphere of the brain. We will call the multidimensional feminine. The musical part of the brain has to become more dominant in order to make this successful for young people. And this is why Carlos Santana, who's working with us, is trying to raise the conscience of the planet through music that is positive, to music that is for the human race to ascend, and for the human to understand the spiritual vitality of life.
And thank you, Vera and Dita, and everything you're bringing to the world at this point that really needs an awakening. And maybe there's technologies that can help us. I mean, it sounds like there is. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Alan Steinfeld, along with friends, for New Realities.